Let's see how to use Laravel Sanctum for API token authentication. Laravel Sanctum is a very lightweight package for token authentication with the SPA application, that is single page applications. Laravel itself has a very detailed OAuth pack called Passport, which is a high level implementation of OAuth 2. And however, we might not need that detailed complexity in our application where we need a simple token based authentication. So let's see how to get it installed with Laravel and how to use it. So let's use this composer required command in our terminal. It will take almost a minute to complete the installation. So let's fast forward that. Now the installation has been completed. Now let's go back. Let's execute this vendor publish command. It will copy the database migration files. Now let's execute PHP artisan migrate. So the personal access token table has been created now. And let's make these changes. And need to include that class on http kernel.php. So let's find that. Let's paste that thing. Let's update the API. Fine. Let's save it. So that's all with the Laravel Sanctum installation. So let's see how to use it. Let's go back to controller. Let's close all these windows. Let's go back to controller. In controller, we don't have the auth controller, so let's create that one. Artisan, make controller, auth controller. Fine. So let's do some bit of arrangement with the controller directory. Let's create an API folder, and inside that, let's create one more folder, that is v1. So that we can separate the controllers based on the versions, which gives a maintainability for our controllers. Like if we want to keep multiple versions of controllers, this would be better than renaming the controllers per versions. So let's put those controllers which we created into v1 folder, and we will need to update that namespace. API/v1, and we will need to update in all those controllers as we moved it to this new directory. Let's save it. So let's go and work on auth controller. In case if you want to create a controller inside the v1 itself, we can do php artisan make controller API slash v1 and let's make a test controller. Okay, so it will create the controller within the directory directly, and it will keep the proper namespace there. So we just don't want, let's remove that. Okay, now let's work on auth controller. Let's add a function for registration, public function register. Let's copy that for a login, and obviously another one for logout. So let's start with a register function. So we will be receiving a request object. So let's add that request. From front end, we will be getting a name, an email, and a password. So Laravel has an inbuilt validation class. So let's use that like for validating the inputs. Let's define a variable for the validator equal to validator and get all the request. And then it will be an array of roles for each field. So let's do email, or let's do first a name. A name must be a string, and it is also required. And let's add email, which is again a string and is also required, and also it must be email format, and also it must be unique in the users table. So we can specify unique, and we can mention the user table, that is users, and the email column. So let's add one more role for password, which is again must be a string and is also required, and must be a minimum of length of 6. So we can add min colon 6, so which it will validate the length of the password as well. So now so if the validator fails, validator then we will have to send a JSON of the error object. So let's do return response, which is a JSON format. So let's add in a variable error and get all the errors of the validator. And will return with an error code of 400. So when any of these rows fail, like we will get a 400 response with the validation errors. And when there is no validation errors, let's create the user $user is equal to it's a new model user. So it's like we have defined the user model over there. So we'll use it's a new object of user model. And let's set the name with the name that we get from the request. Similarly, for email and password, so let's copy that. For email and get the thing from email and the password. And now let's save it. Set our user, save. So this will create a user record in the users table. So once it is saved, so let's return a success message with the user object. So let's return the response in JSON format. And let's return the user object as it is. So let's copy that. And we'll return with 200. So our registration part is almost done, but we are yet to implement the token stuff. However, like okay, we will check like the registration part is working or not. So let's go for adding a route. And the routes API. So there we will add a normal route with post method route post, and when it is calling register URL, we want it to execute the auth controller in API. V1 and the auth controller and the register function. So you can see like we are mentioning V1 over here, so that okay, it will be calling the proper controller from the version folder. And in fact, this will enable us to do the versioning in the routing itself. So where like okay, we will be able to group the routes based on the version of the product. So we will be doing that eventually in the same project. For now, let's test the route. For that, like okay, we will be using a tool called Insomnia. So let's open it. In Insomnia, we can create a workspace for the project. And then let's create a new request, register. Let's select post, and it will be form URL encoded. Let's create it. Okay, and so let's give the URL. Okay, and forms will be name, email, and the password. So with that, let's see like okay whether it's working. Let's try send. Seems it is not working. If it is taking more than 5 seconds, it might not be working. So couldn't resolve host name. So okay, we missed a Y. Sent. Now it's a 404 not found. URL is right. So let's get back to code. Let's check the route list. PHP artisan route colon list. So oops. Controller not found in auth controllers. Oh yeah, okay. As we moved those files to that inside v1, we forgot to specify the outside controller. So let's define that. So this app, it is under HTTP controllers and controller. Okay, we will need to repeat it on the other controllers as well. So this won't be a problem like if when we create the controller directly mentioning the path name. Let's save all these files and okay, so let's try once again. Okay, now we are getting the route list. Fine. So let's get back to Insomnia and see. Okay, sent. Still 404. Let's see the code. Okay, we have API/register. That's the route. So let's correct that one. So it's just API/register and sent. Now it is 500, a validator not found. So let's get back to auth controller. See, we have a used validator, but we missed defining that, and I mean like I missed importing the validator class. So let's use validator. And also down there like we used the user model as well, so let's add that as well. Okay, okay, user. Okay, use app user. Okay, now I think let's save it and let's try once again. Fine, we are now get the response. We are getting all the validation errors because we haven't give any inputs. So let's give some values. let's try. Yeah, now we are getting a response. Let's check in database. Okay, there are users. Yeah, we now have a record inserted with the timestamps in the created at and updated at columns. And see, the problem now is like, okay, we have the password just directly. We don't have it encrypted. So for any application, we must get the password encrypted. So let's encrypt that. So let's close the terminal now. And so before adding the new user, let's take the request password and we will use the bcrypt function provided by Laravel. It will encrypt the input password, and so let's save and try once again. Now the email has already been taken, so need to give another one. Okay, sent. So we got a response. Let's check in database. Okay. Yeah, so now we got an encrypted password. Well, okay, now we are done with the validation, encryption, and creating the user. We are yet to implement the token. So let's add the login functionality as well. For login, we will be getting a user email and the password. So we will need to validate it. So we can use the same validation from registration. And in that we won't be getting name. And also we don't need to check the uniqueness in user table. Now let's do an auth attempt. So if auth, see now the code is giving an option to import the class automatically. So once we click enter, it will add the auth class there on the top. So now attempt. Let's give email, and it will be the request email which we got from the input. And the password. Fine. So if it is authenticated, so we will get the user object. So let's user equal to auth colon user. So now the user variable will have the authorized user. Else we will send out an error. Let's return a response. Return in JSON. So within just an error message. Let's say invalid credentials. With an error code of 401. If the user is valid, we will return the user object as in the registration. Let's save it, and let's add a new route for login. So in fact almost the same as registration, and it will be login and login. Fine. So let's try an insomnia for login. We will create a new request, login, and it will be post, and form URL encoded, create it. So yeah, URL, let's get it from the registration and make it login. It will be email and a password. So let's just try that one. Oops, 500 error, expecting semicolon. Okay, so let's check back the code. Not here in auth controller. Oh yeah, there we missed a semicolon. Fine, let's save and try again. So let's send. Okay, now we are getting the validation errors. So let's queue. Okay, invalid credentials. So again invalid credentials. Uh, it is coming because see the password like we kept for the test email is non-encrypted one. So when we do an auth attempt, it will encrypt the password, encrypt the input, and compare with the encrypted password. So here, like, okay, as it is not encrypted, it won't match. So let's try the other user. So it will be test2, and let's send it. Okay, now we are getting the user object. So our login attempt is successful. So in fact, like, okay, we are almost done with the normal way of registering and logging in. Now we will see like how to use Laravel Sanctum for token-based authentication. To issue the API tokens, we will need to make a few changes in the user model. We have to add has API tokens and include the class for that. Let's copy that. Find the user model. Just add that along with the notifiable class, and let's get the class also. Save it, and if you see, like, we can use create token, plain text token, to generate a token for the authenticated user. So let's go to auth controller, and after the login, we can create the token, and instead of sending the user object, we will send the token. So we can give a custom name for the token, and we can also include the text token comment along with the first line. and we'll do that. And instead of user, let's send the token. Let's save it and check it out. Let's send it. Yeah, we are getting a token now. If we try again, like we will be getting a new token. So for every attempt, we are getting a unique token. Let's see like where these tokens are getting saved or generated. So it is a personal access token. For every attempt, it adds a record with the token for that user. And instead of sending the token just like just directly, we will put that in an array and send us an object. Uh, in fact, so let's define a data array. And we'll put the token inside the data array. It is not required, but I prefer it that way. Well, so we need the same thing for the registration as well. So let's copy that. And after the user is created, we can send the token. So that okay, once the registration is done, like the user need not to log in again. So we will, once the user is created, we will do that. So let's add the data array as well there. We can remove those, and we will be sending the data array with the token. We'll remove that as well. Well, now we can save it and try running that in Insomnia. Register, put a new email and send. Well, we are getting a token now. So if you notice, like the token what we are seeing as an output is not exactly same as what we can find in the database. So Laravel is doing some internal encryption on the token as well. Now let's get back. So we need to add a logout functionality as well. So for that, so if the user is authenticated, so that is if auth user, then we will need to delete all the tokens generated for that user. Tokens and then delete them. Yeah. And let's send a response also. Let's send a simple message. logged out, and it will be error code of 200. And let's add a route for that. Logout. Okay, now it's a post. So but what are we going to post over there? Like, we are not passing any inputs. So what we have to send is the authorized user credential, or like or the authenticated session. So how can we send that one? So for that, like, okay, we have to use the middleware of auth, but here actually it is the, by default it is getting API. So for in the documentation we can find the middleware as auth sanctum. So let's use that. So instead of API, use sanctum. And it will be a post request, and it will be log out. So we can use that controller, and we can remove that view. Fine. So let's save and try. I'll add a new request, log out. It will be a post. There is no body, just create it. For test2 email, we got a token. So let's copy that token. And go to logout and add it as a bearer token. And let's give the URL. Logout. And let's send it. It's saying logged out. So let's see like whether the token has been removed from the database. Let's refresh it. No, the token is not removed. Why? So users, the test2 email is with the user ID 2, and so in access tokens, so there are a lot of tokens for user ID 2, so all these must be deleted. So let's see why it is not. Okay, we already have we have two routes here, the one, the normal route, and the other, the authenticator route, so it must be confusing. So let's remove that one, and let's try again. So send it. Now let's see. Yeah, everything has been removed. So let's do a test again. So let's log in again for test2 email. Let's send it. We got a token. And now let's see in database. Okay, we got a record over there. Now let's do an attempt to log out. Update the bearer token, and let's send it. So it gives success. So let's check whether the token has been removed. Refresh, and yeah, the token has been removed. Now let's add one more function for the profile. So here, like, okay, we will be sending out the authenticated user. So let's send the response. So instead of message, we will send the authenticated user object. Fine. So let's save, and we will need to add a route. Okay, so that also need to be an authorized route. Let's save it and try an insomnia. Okay, let's add a new request for profile. And it is a get create. So yeah, it is a get. So this need to be a get. Save it. Let's get back. Let's get the URL. Okay. And we don't have anything for the body. So let's just try sending. So we got a 500 error. The route login not defined. So it is because, like, okay, we don't have any user session, like, or like we don't have any authenticated user token passed, and they couldn't find a session. So it automatically redirect to the login route, and we don't have a login route. In fact, like, it is looking for the web routes, and we don't have any web routes also defined. So that's why it's giving an error. So we can ignore that one. So let's do a login again. So for the test2, let's send again. We got a token. Now put that token for as a bearer token. And let's send it. So we got the user object. If you want to know, like, why we got the login route error, it's because in the middleware, it's authenticate. So we have a hard-coded route over here, which is like, okay, which will be redirected if the user is not authorized. So it is redirecting to the login route, which is a web route. And in fact, we don't have to worry about that. It's because, like, it is expecting, like, if the request does not expect JSON, then only, like, it's going to direct to that route, and from our API, from our front end, we will be always sending JSON only. So we won't be facing this issue uh, from the application. Well, that's all about the authentication. So let's do one more thing. See, for all the authorized routes, like okay, we need to mention this middleware. So we can do one thing, like we can group this stuff. So let's do that thing. So let's copy that one and group, and inside is a function. So there we can define each of these routes. So let's put logout and profile inside this. So let's remove the other two, and so we can do one more thing. See, we have already start maintaining versions. So uh, we can handle the controller based on the version in couple of ways. One, like we are currently doing that, we are hard coding the version number over there. The other way, there is one more way to do is we can add one more level over there. So that is route, group it, and based on the prefix. So let's add a prefix. Which is v1, and it will be again a function, and all the other routes will come under that. So let's put all these things, uh, all the uh, all the other stuff inside that one. See now, like okay, for the version 1, like whatever that controller defined inside will work. And so we can, like if you want to move to another version, like okay, we can just change it. Or like okay, if you want to keep the two versions and handle it accordingly, so we can just replicate that one again. Like okay, we can go for a version 2, and the logout may go for version 1 and profile may go for version 2. So with that thing, like without much changes with the name of the controller and all these things, we can uh, keep multiple versions in the system. So let's remove that. And let's test it once again as we changed all the routing. Let's log in. Okay, it's working. And let's see the profile. Oops, we are getting a 404. Okay, yeah, we now need a v1 over there as we are looking for a prefix. So let's try. Now we get another one, 405. The get method is not supported. Let's check. Okay, we put post there. Okay, let's make it get. Fine. Let's save and try again. Okay, so now it's working. That's all about the Laravel Sanctum implementation. Uh, if you wonder why the profile didn't work and the login worked without the v1 in URL, it's because we defined the register and login route outside the v1 grouping. So, and that's why it worked without the v1 prefix. So let's work on the family tree controller and some basic CRUD operations in the next session. So make sure you subscribe and enable notifications for this channel to get notified when I upload it.